In a dark misty forest, we saw a young man sitting alone on a rock. Next, we saw a young teenage girl named Hotaru preparing to leave for a summer vacation at her uncle's house. As any caring parent would do, her mother reminded her not to be careless during her trip so as to not leave her belongings behind. Hotaru assured her mother and reminded her that she has been doing this for many years now. On her way, she got a flashback of when she was 6 years old. She got lost in the forest near her uncle's house. The place was called the Forest of the Mountain God, and spirits are said to live there. She was crying as she couldn't find a way out of the forest and felt lonely and afraid. Then she heard someone calling her from behind the trees. She saw a young man with silver hair and wearing a mask. He asked her why she is crying. Relieved to see another person, Hotaru ran towards him, trying to hug him, but he instantly evaded her, making her fall. After apologizing, he told her that if a human touched him, he will disappear. Confused, she asked if he is not a human himself. He just replied by saying that he is something that is living inside the forest. Curious about what he said about him disappearing, she tried to touch him. Hotaru kept trying despite him evading her all the time, and in the end, he hit her with a stick. He then explained that he is under a spell by the mountain god, and that to disappear meant that he will be completely obliterated. The man asked Hotaru to hold the other end of the stick that he grabbed to guide her out of the forest safely. Hearing that, the overjoyed Hotaru ran towards him to hug him again, but is hit using a stick. On their way, Hotaru told him that it felt like a date. The man asked if she is not afraid. She innocently replied, "Of what?" and the man dismissed the question. At the exit gate, he told her to just keep walking straight. She asked if he will always be there and will they meet again if she come back there. He then advised her not to come back as it is where the spirits live and it will be dangerous for her to set foot there. Hotaru then introduced herself but got no reply from the man. She then said goodbye and told him that she will come back there with a thank you present. When she turned around, the man introduced himself as Gin and was gone after she turned back to see him. On her way, she finally met her uncle who was looking for her. She happily hugged him after he scolded her for wandering around the forest alone. While walking home, she asked her uncle if there really are spirits living in the forest. He then told her that when he was a kid, he and his friends used to come to the forest to look for the spirits but never met any. However, he said his friend Iwa once went to a fun festival in the forest together with her friends. But there couldn't possibly be a festival headed by villagers in the forest. So, whose festival could it have been? The next day, Gin was really surprised that Hotaru went back to the forest again. Feeling glad to see Gin, she instinctively ran towards Gin to hug him. She then got hit by the stick again. Gin then invited her to walk together into the forest as it is very hot there. As they were walking together while enjoying the snacks Hotaru brought, they are met by a dark figure behind a tree that asks Gin if Hotaru is a human child. The dark figure then asks if he can eat her. As Hotaru hid behind Gin, Gin told the dark figure that she is his friend. The dark figure then warned Hotaru not to touch Gin if she don't want to get eaten by him. Gin then scared the dark figure into transforming into a fox spirit. That spirit liked to scare people by transforming into various forms, but is all bark and no bite. They then continued their journey. Hotaru asked Gin why she is wearing a mask. He avoided the question and asked Hotaru to tell him more about herself as it is the reason Gin waited for her that day. Hotaru was really glad to hear Gin saying that. The next day and the days after that, she kept going back to the forest. In those summer days, they played around the mountain together. One day, when Gin fell asleep on the grass, Hotaru got curious and tried to remove his mask, thinking that touching the mask must be safe. As she took his mask off, he saw a normal human face on him. Gin then opened his eyes and startled Hotaru, who put his mask back on his face violently. He then explained to her that the reason he is constantly wearing masks is so that he could look more like a spirit. On their way back, Hotaru told him that she won't be coming the next day as she is just there for a summer vacation at her uncle's house. Gin then asked if she will come back there next year, to which Hotaru excitedly replied yes. The summer vacation then became something that Hotaru and Gin look forward to every year. In their next summer together, they encountered a giant tree spirit who held Gin. The spirit was concerned about Gin and warned Gin to be careful with the human child. Gin then assured the spirit and thanked him for his concern. As the spirit backed off, he reminded Hotaru not to touch Gin. On their way, lots of other spirits also showed their concern for Gin. One summer, when Hotaru tried to scare Gin by surprising him with a hanging tree, the tree's branch broke and Hotaru is about to fall. Seeing that, Gin instantly tried to catch her but stopped on his track as he couldn't not touch her. Luckily, Hotaru fell on the top of a bush and is safe from the fall. While smiling, Hotaru told Gin to never touch her no matter what. She then broke into tears, thinking that she could have lost him forever from the previous incident. The next summer, Hotaru went to the forest wearing her school uniform to show Gin that she is now a 5th grader. In this encounter, Hotaru realized that Gin ages way slower compared to normal humans, and their age gap is getting smaller. On their way home, Hotaru saw Gin removing his mask and looked at him for a while. At her uncle's house, she was thinking that one day she will be older than Gin. Her uncle invited her to take a watermelon. As they enjoyed the watermelon together, her uncle mentioned that the winter there would be very cold that year, even saying that it might freeze even the mountain god. On her last day there, she then got Gin a scarf to help him during the winter. At school, Hotaru was spacing out a lot as she thought about Gin. Even when she held her friend's hand who was helping her walk through the slippery ice, she was thinking about how much she wanted to see and touch Gin. The next summer, Hotaru came to see Gin while wearing a high school uniform. She told Gin that she planned to get a job there after she graduated to be closer to him. Gin then told Hotaru about himself. He is not a spirit but was once a human. When he was a baby, he was abandoned in the forest and cried helplessly, as if to call his parents back. The spirit sympathized with him and he could have died back then. The mountain god cast a spell on him that allowed him to continue living. As a body that is maintained by magic is very weak, the spell will break if it touches a human body. He then told her that it is fine to forget about him. Hotaru then told him about how she was thinking about him all year and told him not to forget about her instead. She then said that time might separate them one day, but she wanted them to stay together until then. The next day, as they were fishing together, Gin invited Hotaru to go to a spirit festival together. Hotaru happily agreed, but felt that a spirit festival might be a little unnerving. Gin assured her that it is not very different from a human festival, as it was supposed to mimic the human festival, and promised to protect her. At the night, all the spirits disguised themselves as human and enjoyed the festival just like how humans do. It is said that sometimes even real humans might even accidentally be mixed in with the crowd, which reminded Hotaru of her uncle's friend. Gin then took out a cloth, tied themselves together as he couldn't touch her. She then said that it's almost like they are on a date, reminiscence of the first time she told this joke to Gin when she was a child. But this time, Gin replied by saying that it is a date, which startled Hotaru lightly. They both then enjoyed the festival together with its various activities. On their way home, Gin told Hotaru that he could no longer wait for the summer to come around. When they are away, even though Gin couldn't be in the crowds, he still wanted to see her. He then put his mask on Hotaru and kissed her over it. Gin told Hotaru that she could keep his mask. Deep down in her heart, Hotaru felt that it might be their last meeting together. Suddenly, 2 spirit kids ran past them and one of them tripped but was saved by Gin. After checking on the kid, Hotaru turned to see Gin but is surprised to see Gin staring at his disappearing hands. They then realized that the kids from before are actually humans that got mixed in at the festival. Knowing that it was his last moments, he widely opened his arm and invited Hotaru to his warm embrace. Hotaru immediately ran towards him and hugged him tightly. They can finally touch each other. It only lasted for a very short moment as Gin disappeared and Hotaru lied on the ground crying. Both expressed their love for each other. Hotaru then took Gin's mask and held it tightly. The spirits then showed up and thanked Hotaru. Even though they wanted to stay with Gin forever, Hotaru managed to fulfill Gin's wish to touch a human and he could finally be hugged by a human. As she walked home by herself, realized how hard to look forward to summer for a long time in the future. But she kept his warmth in his hand and their memories together will live on in her heart. The film ended with her moving on and visiting her uncle's home for summer as usual. So that concludes the recap of Into the Forest of Firefly's Light. What do you guys think? Overall, this anime has an interesting story and a very simple plot. The main characters Hotaru and Gin have very different characteristics, but complement each other very well. The message that the author wants to convey through the name Hotaru or Fireflies is also delivered beautifully. Just like fireflies, no matter how much Hotaru wants to touch Gin, he will disappear like fireflies after being touched. This also reminds us to enjoy the moment of togetherness with someone, though not for a quite long time. Please tell us what you think through the comment section. If you like this content, please leave us a like and share them with your friends. Thank you for watching and we see you again.